So my recent work, I've made acid etched records, and I'm interested in the sort of excavation of the sound from the surface of that record, sort of a process that was kind of lost over the last 150 years. And I've sort of been working with a sound researcher in London to kind of recover this process, but also to adapt it to make new works. I'm particularly interested in sounding spaces. I've got a sort of series of experiments that I'm going to be kind of introducing sound into kind of various spaces and creating different sort of cavities and working with trying to physically sort of shape the sound. My grandfather had a laryngectomy. He didn't form speech through his mouth that came from sort of this veiled surface on his throat, and I suppose that's kind of really inspired, I guess, sort of fascination with sounding surfaces and kind of latency of information that can kind of hide on the surface, and that kind of relates back to these records that I've been making. So I suppose in a way this exhibition, I'm kind of making a Foley stage, sort of, I suppose, a kind of larynx. The objects that I've brought into the space with me they have quite specific sort of properties that I'm kind of interested in exploring. We have the signal generator that is going to be providing a sort of a ground tone, which is like the propulsion of sound in your speech, and that's what my grandfather was sort of missing, was the propulsion. And then I'm using the larger objects in the space, the materials, to kind of create, I guess, the consonants or the fricatives, different types of structures that kind of shape the sound, and eventually form words and kind of communicable speech. Figure 3 was kind of really interesting because it was an opportunity to try some large-scale experiments, which I just literally don't have the space to try anywhere else.
I'm Cath from Bertola.
I'm Coupe.
And we're two of 5 artists.
So the other 3 artists are Jennifer Douglas, Tanya at Axford, and Cath Campbell.
We all studied at Newcastle University together about 20 years ago, and we've kind of worked with each other individually on various projects over the course of our kind of careers, and it just sort of, we got to a point where we just kind of wanted to come together just to really support our practice in a critical way.
We all had young children at that same time, and I think there are a number of different challenges that come along with being parents of young children, trying to continue with an artistic practice. And because we were all in that same situation, we were able to give one another support, but also critical feedback on work, and enabling one another to do things that perhaps individually we might not have been able to do. And so we've been doing that informally, for about 2 years now.
And it was just a chance to sort of bring together our actual work, so we were talking about actual physical work as opposed to talking about ideas or looking at digital images on a screen. It was kind of a way of bringing together our physical work, putting our work next to each other and seeing what the conversations are between the work as well.
Because we don't work collectively, it's very much a case of how our individual practices sit alongside one another. So we've always said that the most interesting thing about the private shows that we did, where we invited curators and people to come talk to us about what we were doing, was the installation, where we were talking, having those discussions about how the work sat alongside one another, what things were happening that were unexpected, and where those conversations happened seemed like the most interesting part of the show. So what we've really done is kind of extend that and make that the focus of the exhibition here, and so that's what object relations is.
Yeah, it's like about the relationships between the kind of objects we brought together.
This felt like a really good opportunity for us to do something which would be the first public showing of our work together, but also that it gave us scope to use this as a way of developing work as well at the same time.
It's like a testing ground, isn't it?
Exactly.
To test things.
Instead of just as exhibiting, as a way of actually creating the work as well.
I think it's about, and I think it felt like with the figure 3 that there's less pressure for things to be completely resolved. It felt very much like it's a week and it's almost like a project space.
I think something that really appealed to us, that this was a space where we could actually make new work in situ and
of a scale, I think, as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's really appealing. Like having a space that's big enough to take on like really ambitious work.